right. Yeah.
Cool. We are recording. We have Matt Rudd finally figured out our camera technical difficulties. And we have a whole big crew of people, 20 plus people over here attending today. So thank you guys for being here. Just really quick, like the housekeeping stuff, if you haven't attended a knowledge drop in the past, I'll just tell you how it works before I hand it over to this handsome man who we can now see, which is exciting. But basically, we'll spend the first half of this half an hour or a little less than now, but having Matt sort of go through his slides and explain his story and kind of talk through his deck and what he hopes you guys get out of this. And then hopefully we'll have a little bit of time for question and answer at the end. So during this, if you guys have questions, try to use the Q&A box, which is different than the chat box, because then that way it'll all be stored for the end in the order that they came in, so I can go through it that way before we get to the half an hour mark. And then feel free to use the chat box as well, though, if you guys just want to talk about stuff as Matt's talking. And then, yeah, just again, this is getting recorded. It'll be in the Knowledge Drop archive, so you can share this with anybody else you know that might be trying to get motivated to write or is writing but like not feeling so hot about it, because hopefully this gives you guys a little inspiration and motivation, because Matt's been doing this. He's published a couple books, and he'll share all that. So, yeah, without further ado, Matt, take it away, my man. And thanks again.
Alrighty. So can everyone see my slideshow? Is it working?
It is not sharing yet. It is still just us.
All right. Wait.
You got it. Share screen.
Yeah.
Still just us.
Wait. I'm confused now. What do I just hit present right now?
No, you hit share screen. First you got to go share screen on the Zoom.
Oh, wait. Oh, God. Sorry about this.
We even did a rehearsal and everything.
Where is it?
Do you see it at the bottom? It's like participants, question and answer. In the middle, it's share screen.
Wait, okay. It got out of my Zoom for some reason. Hold on. I'm very confused. I'm sorry.
First on Zoom. First on Zoom, share your screen. And then from there, do your present.
It doesn't have Zoom open. How is that possible? Oh, wait, here we go. Sorry, it was minimized. Okay.
There you go.
Sorry, I'm very clueless. And okay, there it is. Now I got it.
There we go.
All right.
Wow, we see it.
All right. Well, okay. So this is perfect.
There we go. Perfect.
All right. So now it's showing up.
Yeah, we all see it perfectly now.
Okay. All right. I apologize, everyone. This is for real. How any idiot like me who takes 10 minutes to get his presentation up can write a book. So this is proof. I'm sorry for drawing it out, but now you guys totally understand what I mean.
Was that like a public speaking, like that was like a little gimmick, like you just show that you're an idiot?
It totally was. Let's go with that. All right, so I am going to drop some writering knowledge on you guys, not some technical knowledge. That is not going to happen. So what's about to drop? 3 takeaways. Any idiot like me can write a book. If I can do it, you can. The key is testing a billion ideas. We all have this misconception where we think we have one perfect idea and we can just put it on paper and get it published. And I'm going to tell you why I think that's wrong. And once you get a winner, you just double down on it. So why me? I've self-published 3 books. I will point out 2 at first, and then we'll briefly mention the 3rd later. You'll see why. The first one made over $10,000 in profits. That's not counting my extensive publishing costs, which were actually just $5. And I didn't do any marketing on it at all. So here's just quick proof. These are my paperback sales. So it was about like $8,000, 1,200 copies. And then another, probably $3,000 in Kindle sales. That was my first book on sports betting. And the second one basically explained how I did it, and some other stuff I've learned editing and marketing books. And an interesting thing here is it was a quote bestseller, number 1 in its category, which Travis is applauding. But my point I'm going to make is basically all I did was release this for free, post about it on my Facebook page and on Remote Year, which you awesome guys supported me and downloaded it and maybe read it, maybe didn't. So Amazon measures their bestsellers like in real time. So it'll be in the last few hours or so. So it's actually really, really easy to be a bestseller. So my point is, don't be impressed by that. Don't be impressed by people who say they're bestsellers. What matters is, did people read it? Did you get something out of it, etc. So there tend to be two reactions to what I just told you, which is either like, oh, that's so cute, you wrote a little ebook. And then I tell them the whole thing about how much money I made and how it led to a career for me. And then they switch to the complete opposite extreme, which is, wow, you're so amazing, I can never do that. But the truth is, it's not all either you're this big tough guy on the right with the poker chips that you'll never become, or you're this bumbling fool on the left who just writes for fun. There's actually a clumsy yet still successful middle where you can make some money, be a writer, and still do things like take 10 minutes to get your computer screen to share. So back to this poker analogy. I've been playing with this a lot. I find it really interesting because before you've done something, you tend to see anyone you admire as some big shot with this big stack of poker chips, which I like, because the truth is, with self-publishing, anyone can sit at that table, even if you don't think you have any chips. I didn't think I had any chips. I was 22, was living in Prague, teaching English. Then I quit my job, so I was unemployed. I had an economics degree, and I basically just decided to write a book for fun. It took 3 weeks. It's around 25,000 words, which is less than 1,000 words per day if you count like editing time and days that I just sat in the cafe and got nothing done. Cost me $5 to publish. That's for the cover I made, which actually looks pretty good, in about 10 minutes. It's essentially like posting on Instagram. You have to create an account. You put it in a category, title, subtitle, and as long as everything is already formatted, which is quite easy, then that's it. And then I was kind of shocked. I've made about $10,000, which isn't really even the best part. It's that it led to me getting a ton of freelance jobs, editing people's books, marketing, sort of ghostwriting stuff. I worked for the startup, etc. So the thing I learned is that Amazon self-publishing is very similar to like YouTube and Instagram, where any idiot like me or any genius or anywhere in between can publish anything. And it's basically up to the audience. Do they care? Then you're legitimate. Do they not care? Then you wasted some time and it's not a big deal. So a lot of us know this. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But we still have this like, oh, maybe I could do it just like one day. And these are like the most common excuses I hear, and I have them all too. Where do I start? Will anyone care? I'm not a real writer. I just do this for fun. I'm not good enough yet. Maybe one day. I'm not ready. Don't have time. Blah, blah, blah. And the truth is, these are all absolute bullshit. And I don't say that to be harsh. I had all these same excuses. And I won't spend too much time on them right now because I address them in my book, which if anyone doesn't want to pay $5, you can email me, Slack me, and I will send you a free PDF. I'm not like trying to sell it to you. But the point is, the excuses have been taken away. Again, like everything's been decentralized. Anyone can publish. Will anyone read it? It depends, but anyone is capable of doing it. And the reason I've found that most people don't do it, myself included, is it's just so overwhelming. Again, you see this person with this huge stack of poker chips and you don't realize that they started with one just like you. You don't realize that they've been making small bets for years, building up, until they finally wrote a book or two or three or five. And typically, if you have these feelings, it just means you're not a lunatic. Because if you think, yes, I'm going to write a book, it's going to be amazing, everyone's going to buy it, you're probably just insane. And if you're an aspiring writer, you typically are a big reader and you know good writing and you know what it's like, and you think, oh, maybe I'm not quite there yet. And that's the reason you're self-conscious, which is totally, totally normal. I still feel like that all the time, and yet I was able to do it. So again, if I can do it, you sure as poop can. I say words like poop in knowledge drops, and you know the whole technical fiasco. So yeah, the whole point is, don't get overwhelmed. Don't look 20 steps ahead, just one step ahead. So this is how I started. This is how my book started. I was like a freelance sports writer. And I wrote this sports betting column every week that got about 20,000 hits or so. It was fairly popular, but nothing too crazy. And I just had this idea, like I have so much to say about sports betting. I hate how other people write about it. I feel like there's a big hole in the market here. What if I wrote a book about it? But I thought I was crazy. I didn't want to waste weeks or months writing this if no one was going to read it. So I figured I have this audience already. Why don't I just ask them if they would read a book? And I actually, looking back, did a pretty bad job of it. You can read it there. This is like not very good copywriting. I didn't even really say I was writing a book. I just said, email me with the subject line book, just to see if anyone would bite. And what happened was about 50 people bit out of, this 20,000 or so in a few weeks, which again, really isn't that much, but it was enough people to just test this idea on. So I just interacted with them one-on-one via email, said I'm thinking about writing this book. Like, here's what it's about. And then here's like a sample chapter. So I wrote a sample chapter. I think it was like the 10 commandments of sports betting. It was all right. And I just waited, like, will people respond or will they ignore me? And I got a very, very surprising response. And it wasn't just, me kicking this idea around with my friends. It was strangers asking me questions, asking me for more. When's the next post? When's the book going to come out? Like, can I buy it in advance? And I knew that was validation, which is very similar to, if you know anything about like startup culture, lean startup, where they will tell you don't waste time building out your whole massive idea that's in your head. Just start with the minimum viable product. And once you get validation, then build this whole business. And the same thing can be applied to a book, even as small as just putting a paragraph on a blog post like I did. So don't think too big. Now, there are, I would say, generally two types of books. The first one is informational nonfiction, which is probably the easiest just to start with, which is my book. And the second one is more narrative-based stuff. So either, memoir, biography, fiction, etc. So the first one's super simple. You're basically just giving someone information, teaching them something, helping them get to the next step in their life. So for sports bettors, it was like any casual sports fan can stop losing tons of money by reading my book, because I lost a ton of money myself and learned all these lessons. So it's actually not super aspirational. I wasn't saying, here's how anyone can get rich. It was, here's how someone who is like me can be a little less crappy at this, but not necessarily good. It can be applied to any market, any idea, whether you're a quote expert or whether you're just like a normal guy who lost lots of money like me. And then I won't get as much into the second type because it's not as much my expertise, but I have done some writing and editing with stuff like that. And the two biggest things I would say is, which also applies to the first type, is don't try to impress people. That's our natural inclination. We're all self-conscious, especially writer types. Don't try to impress people, connect with them. If I wrote my book as, I'm the best sports bettor in the world, I know everything about sports betting, here's how you get rich, maybe a few people would have bought initially, then they would have read the book, they would have tried my stuff out, they would have lost some money, and they would have been pissed and no one else would have bought it. So by just connecting with people, telling my story, and giving more realistic advice, I did a lot better. And the same goes for fiction. You don't need to write lofty words. You need to connect with people emotionally. And my favorite book about this is called The Story Grid. I highly recommend you read it. And it basically teaches just like the classic story arc, up, down, up, and how themes are why people keep reading. So what do I write about? A common question, which goes back to these two things. So if you're doing informational nonfiction, you want to answer this sort of copy thesis question, which comes from copywriting. Find your audience. What can you do for them? And in that case, I tell people that life is an endless ladder. Everyone is staring at their ladder of life going, I want this, I want this, I want this, right? Your 2-year-old daughter probably wants a cookie or you to like her. What does President Obama want? I don't know. He wants some free time for himself. Wherever someone is in the spectrum, they want something. Everyone wants something. And nobody asks Santa for his passport. If you give someone a gift, they don't care if you're an expert. They just care that you gave them the gift. Yeah, so just meet people where they are on the ladder. Stories are scripts. Share yours. Don't discount your story just because you're not at the top of the ladder, because there's always someone at the same rung as you or at the same one that you were at before. And when in doubt, entertain people. So again, we see people at this fancy poker table. Maybe I have 5 chips. Maybe J.K. Rowling has 5 billion chips. And maybe you're starting with nothing, you think. And the truth is, everyone has something to share. It sounds cliche, but everyone has a story. Everyone is maybe not a true expert in something, but everyone is an expert in the problems they've overcome, in the things they've been through, in the places they've been, whatever it is. So these are just some questions I think about when I want to write. So what do you obsess over? What do you spend a lot of money or time on? What do friends thank you for, complain about, people love or hate about you? And the reason I ask these questions is you're looking for extreme emotions. Nobody buys a book because they're lukewarm about it. They buy it because they're like, I need that, or they'll say, I hate that, and they'll tell their friend, I hate this, and then the person will be like, actually, that sounds kind of cool. Good art is divisive. Not saying my books are high art, but they do piss people off occasionally, so that's good. And if you're not pissing someone off, no one's going to buy it. So now that was the end of the fluffy motivational portion of my advice. The truth is, your idea probably sucks. Most of my ideas suck. I've written a million things that I thought might have been good. Post them on Facebook, tell my mom, and everyone's like, oh, that was great. And they just don't care, which is fine. And one of my favorite books is called Nobody Wants to Read Your Shit. And it just explains how nobody wants to read your shit. Because most of what we write is a selfie, a journal entry. It's just for us, which is fine. But no one's going to buy it. No one's going to share it. This is normal. It goes back to the concept of betting. You're making these little bets, and let's say 30% of them are going to lose, or maybe 90% of them are going to lose. But when you quote lose, you're not actually losing something. You're just writing something. Maybe a few people read it. Maybe it's frustrating. You get feedback. You know what to do the next time, and you still have that chip. So I told a lot of people about this third book I wrote, and they all laugh and they all go, oh, that's so funny. I'll show you what it is later, but it's a satirical novel about Donald Trump and Adolf Hitler. I'll leave it at that for now. And everyone says, oh, that's so funny, but it's made about $100. Nobody buys it. So the point is, especially your friends, they'll tell you, oh yeah, you should totally write a book. That's such a great idea. But unless they take some action, unless people email you when you post something, unless people share it with their friends, unless people actually take out their wallet and buy it, don't trust them. They're probably just being nice. But this is the beautiful thing. You have infinite bets. When you take this chip and bet it, it actually just comes back to you. And sometimes you win other things. So you write something someone doesn't like, and you realize you can think, why didn't people like it? And you get feedback, and then you get better for the next time, right? It gives you another chip. You get better at writing. You get credibility because you posted something on this site, et cetera, et cetera. People see you've written a blog post every week for a year, and maybe they only like 2 of them, but they see that you're a quote writer. And all these things help. And you just need one win. I've tested very, 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 very many book ideas, and only, I would say, 2 of them won, and they were the sports betting idea and the writing a book idea. Again, nobody vomits gold. Just make these small bets. The smaller the better, because then you're losing very little, right? A Facebook post, an Instagram post, a paragraph in a blog post itself. And then once you hit a bet, then you outline the book, you write it, and you publish it. So keep placing bets, these tiny, tiny little bets, like whatever's going on in Larry David's picture there. You can, I'll leave that to the imagination. And just start small. Start small, make a small bet, and scale up. A book is just a bunch of blog posts. My sports betting book could have stopped at the 10 commandments of sports betting, which was probably 1,000 words. But I realized there was more to say. People had more questions. I wrote it all out. I organized it, I put it in an outline. I wrote it, boom, done. And it totally could have just been, 20 separate blog posts, but because they were connected, it's a book. And that's a much simpler, less overwhelming way of thinking about it. And don't be afraid to experiment. I challenge you to write something as weird as what I wrote here. I think that's the one thing you might not be able to beat me in. But this took me about a month of maybe an hour a day, just messing around. It's absolutely ridiculous. I'm not sure you should buy it. But I had nothing to lose. I did not put my name on it. This was where I drew the line. I actually didn't tell people about it for a while. But there are no rules. It's a series of small bets. You have all these chips. If you have a crazy idea, try it. See if people like it. Life is a free casino. This is not a casino where you can lose your life. This is a casino where your feelings might get a tiny bit hurt because you only got 5 likes on your Facebook post. So the keys to success. Just keep publishing things. If you think this might work, then it's worth trying. I thought an erotic novel about Donald Trump and Adolf Hitler, it might work. It didn't, but it was worth a shot. And once something gets traction, once people take physical action, once people show strong emotion, then double down. Turn your 1 blog post into 5. And once you get to the point where you think you've seen enough validation that it's worth putting your head down and writing the book, then do it. And don't be afraid to laugh at yourself when you inevitably fail, because even if you get lucky and hit on the first one, you're going to fail eventually. So the most common ways to get derailed. Do not think that your first idea is going to work. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But even if your first idea works, sports betting was one of my first ideas. I still, in all of the tests I made and all the little blog posts and chapters I wrote, some people didn't respond to some of them. So I said, maybe I'll scrap this. Showed it to some people. They didn't respond to the part. You scrap it, you build it up. It's an iterative process. And even if you get a little traction, don't just put your head down and take 3 years to write a book, because you might find out that nobody's going to buy it. Don't take yourself too seriously. Don't fall into this trap of, I'm sitting in my proper chair in my suit and I'm going to bang things out on the typewriter. Sit down and play. Don't sit down and write. It's like playing guitar. I don't know why we don't use the word play for writing. It sounds kind of weird. I'm going to play some writing, but I think it makes more sense. So I got some homework for you. I love homework as a very serious person. So I just want you guys to think about, what's the book you've always wanted to write. One day you thought it, quote, might work. Write it down, write down a few ideas, and then find the smallest way you can test it. It could be a Facebook post, a blog post, even an Instagram post, even an email to some of your friends, post on social media or email or something like that. Ask for feedback, see if people share it. And if it works, then double down. If not, try again. And I know this sounds inspiring and great, but you're still going to have excuses. I still have excuses every day. It's really hard. But I just want to insist the logistics part is easy. You don't have to pay lots of money. You can start. This is my second cover, actually, of this book. The first one I did for free. And this was a really cheap one. And eventually I may pay for an expensive one. Don't pay for something you can't afford. You can start cheap using templates and it'll look good enough. You can start by editing it yourself or having a friend edit it. And if you make money on it, if it's worth it, or if you have money to spend, then sure, hire a professional, spend good money. I edit books. Like, it's worth it paying for a good editor if you can afford it and if it's worth it for you. But don't think you have to. You can format for free on a place like Reedsy, Reedsy. It's my favorite. It's all in my book if you want to see it. But the important part is the content itself. That's the hard part. The logistics are super easy. The content is super hard. And it's basically 6 steps. Test ideas super small. Make these small bets. Wait for one to hit. It might take you a day. It might take you a year. It might take you 10 years. Once one hits, outline it. Write the book. Publish it. Let people know. And if you did it properly, and if it elicits extreme enough emotions, if it helps people, if it connects with them emotionally, they will share it. And that is the most important part of marketing. And that is pretty much it. So I hope you guys have questions. And contact me in all these places and here.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Do you want to jump out of your screen share? And we'll go back to it. And I know we're like over time for when we normally stop knowledge drops. If you guys got to go, feel free to take off. But I do, since we started late, I do want to get to these questions that some of you guys have.
Stop share. I figured it out this time.
Yes. Oh, nailed it. Next time we do it. So good. Anyway, so we have a few questions that came through. And you can check the comments below. People are like, oh, Matt, you're so smart, charming, and great beard. So the first question we got is, what is the next overwhelming project that you have in mind that now seems like a big stack of poker chips?
Ooh, that's a great question. What's the next big overwhelming? So this is a book idea I've been kicking around right now. So I've been really, really good at like starting things, and I've done like a variety of freelance jobs. So I've like been editing a couple of books. I've done marketing. I've done coaching for people. I've done ghostwriting. I've basically done like one of every job related to writing and writing books. And I've done absolutely nothing to scale that to a sustainable business or income. So I never know where my next check is coming from, and that's super stressful. So the next overwhelming project is figuring out the one or two things to focus on and how to make it more stable. And I've done a horrible job about it so far. And I hope I figured it out.
Bitcoin, man. I'm just kidding.
Well, I actually do a Bitcoin.
Yeah. It might help.
That's helped a
lot. Next question is from Nicole Roberts. She says, what would you consider validation for an idea? Like what would exactly the proof be that you would need to feel validated?
I don't think there's any like specific rule. What I would say is, and the simplest way to say it would be, an emotional response that provoked an action from a stranger, meaning that someone a lot of people shared something of yours. They had questions and they reached out. If you left your email, I've written things that will say get a ton of likes, but no one will actually reach out to me and ask a question or say, that's amazing, do more. If someone takes like a physical action, especially if someone that doesn't know you, that's a sign that you should make another slightly bigger bet. And then I would say before writing the book, I waited. I actually think I wrote an outline and sent it to people and said, would you buy this? And a bunch of people said yes. And in a perfect world, I would even say, see if you can get money from someone. But the key is like emotion and action. But there's no concrete rule.
A famous anecdote for that was that Into the Wild just started as an article in Outdoor Magazine, and then Vonnegut got like 10,000 people wrote him letters like, tell me more. So that's obviously
exactly.
It's like an extreme case, but then he was like, okay, I guess this is a book now, even though it was just an article at first. Last question, and this is going to open a big can of worms, so maybe just your first thought on it, but like this is something that I've thought about a lot with what I'm trying to write, and I'm sure a lot of other people out there. But how do you get away with inappropriate jokes is the question. I think that leads us down the rabbit hole of like, where do you stop short? Where do you be like your full, naked, truthful self to the world? And like, and how do you get over that your parents are going to read that someday and all that, all those things that go with that?
It is a huge rabbit hole. I would say, just me personally, I've structured my life. I just know my personality that I won't feel comfortable or authentic if I can't make stupid jokes in public. It's easy for me to say because I don't work for a corporation or a big company, so I'm not really accountable to anyone. But I would say like anything, I would treat it as like a muscle where you start really small. I've been publishing things in public for, 4 or 5 years or so. And I definitely did not feel comfortable telling people that I wrote a book where Donald Trump and Adolf Hitler have sex and travel time. But because I might have started with a well-timed fuck in one blog post, and then 2, and then 3, and then maybe a sex joke and this and that, I've built up slowly over time. But no, I wouldn't just go out tomorrow if I'd never written before and maybe publish all of my drug stories. I'd probably build up to it.
Yeah, that's a big rabbit hole. It's an interesting conversation. That's right. It's
Yeah, but
right where
there's
I'm
a
at.
lot more to it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But thanks for that question, and thanks for all of your questions, you guys. I just saw another question. Oh, Michael Constable, let's do this real quick. What if your Facebook friends or blog audience isn't your target audience for your book? Do you still use them, or try to reach that audience some other way?
Well, that's also a really good question. I would say, first of all, you don't have anything to lose by trying with them. You just might not see as good of a response, and you shouldn't be as discouraged for it. But also, I think you'll be surprised at people who like you personally, and maybe will share it with their friends who are your target audience. So I'd say, one, nothing to lose. Two, it might lead to more than you think. And then three, also look in other places. I mean, there's like infinite places online, right? Post on Reddit. I've done a ton of stuff from Reddit, Twitter, search hashtags, people you follow, email a blog, see if you can guest post, Medium, blah, blah, blah. Just look for where this target audience hangs out. But don't discount your friends.
And like, yeah, maybe your best friend's mom is a closet sports bettor. Like, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, thanks for that question, Michael, and for all of you guys. And again, this was recorded, so it'll be in the archive. Feel free to share it with whoever you'd like, and feel free to reach out to Matt on Slack. He's just in Nation Slack, or you can find his email and stuff at the end of his presentation. But thanks again to you, Matt. This is awesome, man. It's very much on front of my mind for me, and I think everybody else that joined today. So hopefully it's helpful for all you guys as well.
Yeah, reach out, anyone. Like, don't hesitate. I love talking about this stuff.
Awesome, man. We'll see you guys back in 2 weeks' time for the next one.